I forgot to do that. You know, a little better lighting. I think it's reflecting off my bright yellow shirt. We're live. Let's see here. I'm going to have to try to adjust this a little bit. It's a little better. What's going on here? I think it doesn't like my shirt. It's just too bright. It's too bright and airy. Let's see. It's just still not happy. But that happens. So how's everybody doing? We are live, obviously. I made it back in time to do the live feed. I was spent the day since about 8 o'clock or so this morning with Oliver. If you guys don't know who Oliver is, he's the gentleman that won the 1972 Project Nova, Nova's Ark. And he is the guy who also put a 6.2 liter turbo diesel in it and did the Smoky Burnout video in time to officially win the car. Now, what I did was there was something that went with the car. It was a bunch of suspension pieces given to me by one of the viewers, and that was awesome. Thank you very much. So what we did was put some of that stuff on today. We concentrated. We want to start out with the rear suspension stuff, and I'm going to do a full video on what we did. We also started to, as well, take the transmission out and get it prepped to pull that motor out so something else could go in the Nova. The 6.2 liter turbo diesel needed to come out anyway because it's slinging oil everywhere. It has a bad rear main seal, and it's not that big a deal, except it is a big deal because there's a whole bunch of holes in the car and stuff. So you don't want the oil everywhere. It just drains. It just drips everywhere and stuff. So, but we got to put some of the suspension stuff on. We got to do, this thing definitely needed leaf spring bushings. You'll be able to see from the video that not only the holes oblonged in the bushings, but also the bushings themselves obviously have deteriorated. And there's a lot of rust on everything, but including the leaf springs. Oliver was sharp enough to, this is a monoleaf rear suspension. This was originally a 6-cylinder car, but he added basically a helper leaf spring. I think it came from a Jeep or something that he cut and put on there. So this thing actually works fairly well. We'll see, because we're hoping to be able to get it running well enough and kind of take it to the drag strip, which would be kind of cool. So whether it gets a L69 305, the HO 305, which is good, would be a good choice because it's definitely other guys in terms of small blocks, or a 4.8 liter LS carbureted deal, which would also be cool, and a turbo 350. So there's lots of good choices for it, but we want to do something. And this is his vehicle, so I'm just there filming and stuff and helping wrench. But it works out good because I can get some content from it, and also he can show. We can do the videos and stuff, and he can show what the average guy would do, because this is not it's not $100,000 or $200,000 or $300,000 like fully detailed, fully restored $1 million paint scheme kind of Nova, pro touring kind of thing. This is a Nova that's rusty and beat up and like the Novas that people have that haven't restored them. So this is something that you would be, you wouldn't worry about drilling holes in and hammering on and stuff. And that's exactly what's happening. So we were able to, he had already, when he put the motor in it, he had already changed some of the suspension pieces because he'd already put shocks on it. He did the helper leaf spring on it to change the factory 6-cylinder leaf spring. He also put different coils in the front. And we have another set of coil springs there, and we're going to do some things to the front suspension as well. That video will be coming after we do that installation on it, because it has the suspension pieces that we got have new control arm bushings, new tie rods and ball joints and things like that. So we can put all that stuff on and upgrade some of that stuff so that we know that the thing is, is safe and handles better, and none of that stuff is going to rust itself and fall off, which is very important. And there's also a front sway bar for that, but you'll be seeing in the video that even though we put it on and it's installed and ready to go, and it's pretty good size, it's a Herb Adams deal that came from Rosso, but I'm not really happy with the rear sway bar. As much as I like a rear sway bar and know what they do, and I like putting them on, they're something that's actually a real kind of bolt-on piece. So you can, you know, using conventional hand tools usually, as long as you have a drill and stuff, you can bolt these things on, and not only can you bolt them on, it'll make a fairly decent improvement in handling. It will make a noticeable difference, especially if you install, like on this car, if you install front and rear sway bars where there were none. There wasn't even a front sway bar on this car, and there obviously definitely wasn't a rear sway bar. The problem we had with this particular one is I dislike the way that I dislike the mounting structure. I don't like mounting the sway bar and having it attached to. I don't like having it attached to sheet metal, you know, in the trunk, because there's no support, there's no structure, there's no thickness. Part of it is going to the frame rail, but some of it is going to, you know, just a sheet metal. And yeah, there's a backing plate there, but it's just not. That's not cool. It could be done, the mounting structure for a rear sway bar. And a lot of these factory cars had rear sway bars. So it's not like you couldn't design a rear sway bar that bolts on the way that the factory one does. And in the factory location, just make it bigger or stiffer or adjustable or some other cool way. And this is just not that. It was, I remember the Herb Adams stuff from way back, and I've had really good luck with a lot of their things. I've had a lot of good luck with putting different kinds of suspension pieces on Camaros and Novas and things like that. It's always worked out fairly well, but I just was not happy with this. We did it anyway, and it's installed, and I guess it's going to work. But it's just, I know from way back, my own experience, one of the first things I did in terms of suspension pieces to my Camaro, I had a 70.5 split bumper Camaro, my first car back in the day, and I wanted it to handle good because other guys were, you know, putting air shocks on their car and jacking them up and making them drag race cars. That wasn't my thing. I was more of a road racer. So I wanted the car to handle really well. So I knew that if I put a rear sway bar on there, it would transform the otherwise stock Rally Sport base engine Camaro, but it was a split bumper. It would transform it into a Formula One car. And as I found out, it didn't really do that. It did make the car more prone to oversteer a little bit, especially lift throttle mid corner when you're in too hot. You know, I went off on my first turn, on my first high-speed turn, thought, oh, this car is definitely going to be able to take this turn this fast. I'm like, oh, no, it's not, and almost backed it into a tree. So that was my learning experience. But my learning experience with putting on this Adco sway bar from J.C. Whitney back in the day that I ordered, mail order, completely forgot that I ordered, and then it showed up, and I'm like, what the heck is this? Oh, cool, this is my rear sway bar. And I went to put it on, and we put it on, and the way that they attached it was subpar, at least for what I was doing with it, and we ended up tearing the mounts out. And that's exactly what would happen with this Nova, is that it would definitely tear the mounts out. And it's not a good fix. Like I said, especially given the fact that there are lots of other ways to do it, and there's lots of places for structure that you can actually make this work. And so it's not a good deal. We'll have to see how the front bar works. I like the front bar design a little bit better because it has Heim joints for the rod ends, you know, for the end links for the sway bar, which I like, is cool. We'll have to see how this thing bolts up. Unfortunately, in the box, there weren't the clamshell primary mounts, I call them, for the sway bar. And so, but luckily for us, that's fairly easy to get. You can get those from almost anywhere. We just need to measure the front sway bar size and get the right bushings and the right clamshells for it. That should be pretty easy. And then we bolt those to the frame and then put the end links on the control arms. And then we want to do that after we put the control arm that has the right, you know, the right new control arm bushings and ball joints and stuff. And so all of that stuff will be upgraded. And then after putting whatever kind of engine in there that Oliver wants in their engine trans combo, we can hopefully do some engine dyno, chassis dyno, drag strip testing with it, which would be cool. But also maybe start thinking about brakes on this thing, because it's got drum. And, you know, after you start going fast, you want brakes or something that you definitely want to make sure that you have. So that will be interesting. Let's see if this will help things a bit. Still not happy with this shirt. It's just too bright. So, but it was, but still, even with that, and the, we ordered the bushings from a local auto parts store because we were missing 2 of the bushings or 3 of the bushings that we needed, and we ordered them, and then they didn't deliver them till late, and then when they did deliver them, they, they delivered 2 instead of the 4 that we needed. You guys know, you guys are car guys, you know what it's like doing car guy stuff, and that's what I was telling Oliver. He's apologizing. I'm like, look, this is not my first rodeo. I've been down this road a lot, and every time you go do something like this kind of things happen. These kind of things happen. So you just know that going in, and you just expect that. If there's not, I don't ever remember a day when I said, you know what, I'm going to go in, I'm going to do this and this and this, and it's all going to work, and it's all going to be fine and happy. And during that process, I was thinking to myself, man, this is all going really good. I can't believe how smooth this is all going. That's as a car guy, that kind of stuff, at least it doesn't happen to me. That kind of stuff just does not happen. So going in, there's going to be stuff. You just adapt and improvise and overcome and make stuff work. And that's exactly what we did. The cool thing is that at his shop, he had a press, and he had things that would make it easier to, we had to press bushings out of the leaf springs and push and press the new ones back in. Luckily, that Nova shares stuff with the early Camaro, so we could get them. We could get some of the bushings, and some of them were pretty worn out. So we, some of the bolts are pretty rusty, and some of the whole car was pretty rusty. The thing that was really, really dirty was, and he's already cleaned it once, was that poor little Saginaw 3-speed transmission. It looked like it had barnacles on it. So I told him, I said, this thing looks like it was like not just underwater, but in the ocean. And for a long time, and barnacles were growing on it because it's got some sort of, I don't know, crusted on mud or something that's turned halfway to cement, or it's amazing. He said, man, it was even worse before I like chipped a bunch of stuff off and cleaned it. And then so we took the trans out and took the bell housing out and took the clutch out, which is the biggest clutch I've ever seen. It's on that turbo diesel. And then the flywheel was like a 70-pound flywheel. So obviously big stored inertia when you get that thing going. So again, just lots of cool stuff, trying to figure out what's going on, trying to figure out the instructions on the sway bar mounting, because all it said were generic mounting instructions, not diagrams for positioning where these mounts go. And, so luckily we're able to figure that stuff out, because having done that before, it's not that big a deal. And, once you put everything in and kind of put it in place, you're like, oh, it kind of wants to be right there. That's good. You mark the positions, drill the holes, and get all that stuff done. And that's kind of cool, but it doesn't always go smoothly. But even when it doesn't, on a day when you're working on cars like that, it's much better than a day, for me, it's much better than a day being in the office, or even a day where I'm spending all day editing videos and stuff. Actually doing the car stuff is the reason that I do this. And that was pretty cool to get to go see a guy. I also picked up the L28 280ZX turbo motor. So I'm going to be doing a video on that, what I like about it, what I don't like about it. And I have the bell housing that came off, oddly enough. The bell housing unbolts from an automatic trans from the ZX. And so I just need to make an adapter to run that hopefully on the engine dyno at WESTECH. Also, speaking of that, the trophy 4-cylinder has arrived at WESTECH. It's actually there. It's been there for a couple of days now. And so when I head down, I should be able to do modifications to that. I mean, first of all, we want to get it running and make sure that it works, make sure that it's happy and makes power and all the holes are there and that the cam's not flat and all of the many things that could happen for an engine that was done back in 1961. So hopefully it will work, and then we could proceed on to making modifications to it, camshaft upgrade, springs, cylinder heads, but lots of intake manifolds and exhaust and headers and that kind of stuff, because we have all that, lucky for us. It's just Pontiac V8 stuff, which will be awesome. So I definitely have a 2-barrel manifold for it. We definitely have a 4-barrel manifold. I don't have a factory 4-barrel manifold, but I have V8 stuff for all that we can definitely run. I'm trying to find a 4-cylinder or a 4-barrel manifold, but if not, I'm going to make some cool stuff, because you know how we do it. So I'm excited about the trophy. I'm excited about the L28 because it's a non-intercooled. The fuel rails are a mess. It just has so many things that need to be changed, and lucky for me, the aftermarket's been going since since that thing from the 80s. So that was a good day today. Yesterday, I also got to do car stuff. I spent time on the 2.2 liter Dodge doing painting and upgrading the exterior parts of it. So I have put coats of black on lots of stuff. Now I need to clear it. And then once I do that, it'll be ready to install back. And I'm just going to do a little bit at a time. A couple pieces here, a couple pieces there. Pretty soon, all that stuff will be nice looking, and I'll see what I can do to. I definitely do want to get it painted, but more than that, I just want to get it running. So I did get an email from somebody reached out, which is very cool. Where are we here? The Car Farm reached out and said, hey, we've got some the YouTube channel. So if you haven't checked it out, make sure to go check out the guys at the Car Farm. And they said that they have 2.2s, 2.5, 16 valve Lotuses, which are rare, and even the super rare 16 valve Maserati 2.2s. I don't want the Lotus motor and I don't want the Maserati motor. As cool as I think that those are very cool. But a T2 2.2 or a T1 2.5, a common block, 2.5 would certainly be acceptable. That would be awesome. Let's see here. So yeah, I just got another response back from him. So that'll be cool. So let's see what you guys got going. I think that Oliver is, if he's here tonight, I haven't taken a look at the comments yet. If he's here tonight, that would be cool. But the cool thing about the Nova, with all of the stuff out of it, obviously it's going to be fairly light. So putting any kind of power in it would be, fairly fast, which would be nice. Because you take out add lightness, as Colin or who's our Lotus guy? Lotus 2.2 turbo in 1970 may have been the first production 4-cylinder to crack 200. But that wasn't back. Was that back in 1970? I have my Lotus turbo book. Don't make me get it out. Lotus, look at this. Lotus since the 70s. Lotus is free turbo. I've always really liked those cars. 7.5 to 1 compression. Wow. Let's see, 210 horsepower, 152 miles an hour. Pretty sporty. Development of the new car began before the end of 1977. The M72. Very cool stuff. I like those. I really like the Lotus motors after they put the charge cooling on them. Lotus Super 7. Colin Chapman, that's who I was trying to think of. I am reading a bedtime story. That's where Car Farm is here in the house. So Car Farm, what do you guys got? What kind of Dodge motors do you have? I'm looking for a 2.2 T2 ideally, but anything. The car is an 85, so it's a T1 2.2 draw through turbo, so not ideal. But I'd like to upgrade it to a 2.2 just so it's a factory intercooled deal. Reading with Richard. I should read you guys bedtime stories. You have all the Dodge motors? And 87 2.2 T2 would be good. I have a, it's going in an Omni. I doubt that you'd find an Omni one, but if it came from something else, is fine. Richard, I'm going to need to send you a G28 to convince you for the Z. What? The 280ZX, the motor? Is the G25 the turbo? Is that what you're talking about? Richard, do you ever go back to Bonneville? I haven't been for a few years. It's coming up. Any tips for a first timer? Yes, go out and make runs at, if you're having a boosted motor, make runs at low boost. And then ideally, Car Farm, ideally it would be ready to drop in. It could be a used motor that's a runner. That's all I care about. It could be high mileage, could be whatever. I don't care. Foreign's in the house now. Can you make a video on porting L83 heads? I'm not a head porter, so I'd be the wrong guy to do that. But Brian Tooley has tested some ported L83 heads, and they work pretty well. What's the wiring on the Omni now? I'm not sure. It has a T2 2.5 in it right now. It has a 3-bar map sensor in it. I don't know what exactly what ECU he has in there right now. There's no updates on the Buick 455 right now. $550 or $660. I suggest the $550 for daily, but $660 for views. The goal, Neil, for the, if you're talking about the L series motor, the 280ZX motor, the goal isn't to make lots and lots of power. I have 1,000 horsepower turbos that will do that if that's what we wanted to do. What I want to do is the same thing that I want to do with the 2.2 and the 2.5, is show what the many different things, modifications that people make, show what they all do. What are the different exhaust manifolds worth? What are the different intake manifolds worth? What are cams worth? What are ported heads worth? What's an intercooler upgrade? What's an E85 worth? How much can you make? Well, we're not going to even run stock injectors because they're just silly. How do you upgrade the fuel rail, which is just nonsense on the factory one? Dan, the Jensens did have 440s in them. They also had 383s. Logic module in the kick panel or converted to SMEC or SBC? I don't know. I need to look and see. Kenny Dentware is going back with a 3,800 horsepower big block in the Streamliner. Yes, that's the Speed Demon, right? Tim's in the house. The Neon motor was a 420A. That's the 4-valve SRT4 motor, right? Is the 280Z motor based on the 235 Chevy? No, actually, the 280Z motor is based on the Mercedes, the inline 6-cylinder Mercedes. For real, you know the engine code? I do know the engine code on the one that everybody suggests that I upgrade to for, on the Omni. Are you up to an inline motor? I've run lots of inline motors. Yeah, the Car Farm, I figured you guys could. Even if it's a T1 that goes in or a T2 that goes in to replace what was there, it will work. But I'll find out because I have the car here now. I can take a look and see what ECU is in there. The owner didn't remember. So just send me an email and let me know what one of those would cost. $550 would be brilliant. $660 would be a bit laggy, but honestly, you'll need a heck of a motor to make use of it. A 4G63T swap should work. You should grow a soul patch. Probably not. Okay, you guys have a T2. Okay, cool. What the ideal thing for me is I would like to make this car emissions legal with a T2. That would be my goal. Just a stock one. Neil, I'll send you one if you'll test it and be honest. Well, if you have to make that comment, then you don't know me very well. Can a Dodge 4.9 go to the dyno until it spits out a valve seat or rocker arms? I've never run a 4.9. I'd never even looked for one of those in the wrecking yard. So a 4.7 needs to be on the list, and then obviously a 6.2 Boss motor needs to be on the list too. Neil, what turbo is that? Is it a Garrett? Is it what is it? Jim worked on many of the Datsun L series engines at the dealer in the early 80s. Fantastic engine. According to Oliver, the motor that I have is actually a very low mileage L series, an L2080T. So I'm hoping that it is a good runner. The Karlov, it'll have to be something very specific for California emissions, which is where I live, but it can still be done. Neil, it's a Garrett G25. Is that a T3 turbo? Bots are here. I like the spelling there, Dan. Bots are in the house. I must be really important if I'm getting botted. Hot bots. Bots coming in hot. It's a Garrett rated for 660 horsepower, but it'll never get there. Only sold as mains and exhaust. Why are these people coming back? Danny, it'd have to be, it's not just a matter of getting it smog. Getting it to pass a smog test is actually very, very easy. That takes almost nothing. There's lots of cars with all kinds of crazy modifications. It would be easy for them to pass a sniffer test. This has to pass a more stringent test. This has got to go to a ref station probably. But I just want to make it. It would be cool when I know that Mark knows the ins and outs about knowing what I have to do to get it to be right. I just want to be able to drive around with a T2. Danny, your LM70's head gaskets at 220,000 miles. My truck's got 300 and something thousand. What's the dream motor for the Nova? There's just too many good ones to choose from. We would really like to put the Sprint turbo motor in there, which would be very cool. But there's lots of cool stuff. The 3800 with the blower and a turbo on there would be good. A carbureted 4.8 is awesome. A complete aluminum motor would be cool. I have that L33 5.3 liter aluminum motor, and that would be a good one to go in there. Yeah, Car Farm, making the power and making it look stock and stuff, all that's easy. but it has to be very specific. It has to have all of the right stuff on it. Like to see an Atlas in the Nova, that would be good. How far would you mill a 350 Chevy? Most people only mill the heads 30 because after that you start running into problems with the intake fitting. Leaning out, the HEs and the Knox will climb, definitely. A 4-barrel Atlas. Greetings from Australia is in the house. Ford supercharged V6 from the 90s Thunderbird would be troll. Had to share. Don't do it. I saw 2 of those in one day, and those are the only 2 I've ever seen in a wrecking yard. But I saw 2 of them on the same day. I should have grabbed at least one of them. The Pontiac overhead cam 6-cylinder would be good. Yep. Multiple engines lined up for the Nova. That would be cool. I'm supposed to go pick up a Pontiac 350 and a I think it's a Turbo 400 trans, which would go right in the Nova also. And then that would make it a Ventura, right? Put some 917 brakes on it. It has those. They cost $9.17. Atlas with a column shifted Saginaw 4-speed. Let's run that 6.2 diesel with a turbo. It does have one on it already. Australia, the real Barra people. Exactly. Those are good. Those are good motors. Everybody should have something that they can use to make lots of power. Duramax 3-liter inline 6-cylinder aluminum block from a 1500. Foreigns in the house. K24A2, that would be good. Karlov, how do you hook up a K24A2 for rear-wheel drive, though? Are there bell housings for that? A diesel fits in that engine bay because there's a diesel in that Nova already. There's a 6.2-liter diesel that he put a turbo on and made it a turbo diesel. I kind of say use a Collins adapter and an FRS 6-speed manual. Okay. The K24 is spin clockwise, Dan, not counterclockwise. Actually, Foreign has a K24 there, but it's a K24A8, which I think is the lower horsepower version. Yeah, that's the 160 horsepower version. That's what I thought. That's like the one that was in the original Civics. Twin turbo E85 J35, that would be good. Yeah, the D's and B's were counterclockwise. We like those because we can run those on the dyno at WESTECH. They won't do reverse rotation stuff anymore because they have a directional impeller. Oh, Tom, that's right. We do need a pole, right? It should be a 5th-gen Corolla. Okay, the poll for tonight is, should the Nova get nitrous? Doesn't matter what engine it is, because it works on everything. I thought of going J35 rear-wheel drive, but never got to figure out the rear-wheel drive. Sprint engine in the Nova. I know. I don't know how we do a, I don't know how you hook a transmission to that. Dan, you want an R07 with an Andrews 4-speed in the Nova? You forgot to put budget in front of that. Need a reverse gearbox in the dyno for those reverse rotation engines. No, you just need a straight vane impeller, so because then you can run the dyno in either direction. You just have to flip the load cell, and that's really easy. We used to do that on the B series all the time on the 901, but the 902 has. Think about if you know anything about Vortex superchargers, an A trim or a B trim had a straight vane impeller. When they went to the impellers that made more power, like the S trim and the R trim and the T trim and all those, they were all directional curve vanes. And the same thing with this impeller. So the impeller wants to spin a certain direction and won't spin the other direction. Does dieseling cause engine damage? Yes, it can. You use a Samurai 5-speed behind the Sprint engine. Will that bolt up to the bell housing? I mean, what bell housing would you use? You're not going to see 100% on this pull. You're only seeing 67%. LV3 and a turbo, LTG. I vote no, turbo it. So, Oliver, that 5-speed transmission that you have there, what will that bolt up to? Is it okay to turbo a small block Chevy 350? Yes. So we're at 65% saying yes, we should. So everybody get their vote in, because this poll is only going to be a 10-minute poll. And then we're going to do another poll. Ranger, a T56 will hold 600 horsepower and is a 6-speed. Or I think guys are using the Nissan 6-speed from the 350 or 370Z, I think. Oh, something that bolts up to a Hemi 47. They have T56s that bolt up to Hemis, right? Get a QuickTime bell housing for a VW to Muncie and do some strange stuff. I have a QuickTime bell housing that bolts to an RB25, which is good. Ram truck, you can add boost if you do it with the right amount of fuel and the right amount of timing. Every engine, it can be a turbo engine. If you're looking at the engine from the front, the engine spins clockwise. $430 twin turbo LS or twin turbo Viper V10, reliable 1600 horsepower. You want to see reliable 50,000 miles from 1600 horsepower? You could, as long as you're not using that 1600 horsepower motor a lot, because that's a lot of power, and so it's not going to be a 50 or 100,000 mile motor. An RB25 isn't no 2JZ. It's just smaller. An RB26 is. a Bentley Continental GT W12. I don't seen those in the wrecking yard. I don't think I'd put a turbo on a 2-volt main 350. Yes, you definitely should. More bots. What's your favorite power adder? I don't have one because they're all good. Is a bigger throttle body worth it on an NA Gen 1 Coyote, like an 85 or bigger? It was. I have a video up where we did the bigger throttle body, but we did it when the thing was already making 550 something horsepower. So on a stock one, probably not. Man, bot's going crazy. How long will my AR5 last in a 3,500 pound turbo LS on 14 pounds? I don't know how strong that trans is. At Punisher Le Mans garage shop, 2JZ is a cool motor, but I don't think. All right, Ranger, we'll see you later. Our 4.3 liter Chevy's any good? Yes, and there's a lot of different 4.3 liter Chevys. There's a whole bunch of different ones. AR5s are breakable. Almost any transmission is. There's a reason Jim made 4-bolt 350s. Yeah, but it wasn't because you can't run boost on them. You can run 7 pounds on any motor. Richard, do you remember the roadkill Datsun with the 4.3 and the turbo? Yes. I know. I feel like Larry. I feel like my channel is exploding. If I'm getting double and triple bots now, I was excited when I just got one. Peter from British Columbia. I have put a turbo on a 2-bolt Chevy, and it still does. We've run boost on lots of 2-bolt Chevys, and it's fine. Are you a fan of the 420 with a turbo? Yes, I want to run that again. I think that motor can make a lot of power. It's a big inline 6-cylinder. It's got pretty good head flow. It's bigger than a 2J, so it makes a lot more NA power than the 2J does. Whether or not it has the block strength and stuff to do what the 2J ultimately does, but nobody ever runs a stock head or stock internals in a 2J and tries to make a lot of power. Because it's a little motor, it's only 3 liters. So it doesn't make a ton of NA power. You have to run a bajillion pounds of boost. But the thing is, it's nice is that the block can take that. Will a GT35 make 800 horsepower? No, it won't. A GT45 might. I like both the RV and the 2J. So do I. I think that they're both cool. I love seeing when they're modified, and I like when guys do them really nicely when they're nicely done too. Nitrous with a turbo works good. I've got videos up on that. There's a Datsun 210 for sale where I'm at. I'd like to buy it, but it has no title. Yeah, you should be leery of that stuff. A 4-bolt Boss 302 block's more expensive. I would use one instead of the 302 block I have. That's a good idea if you're going to try to go up in power. In turbo applications, should I run an iridium plug or a copper plug? I was always told to run cheap copper plugs because they will melt down the plug instead of the cylinder. Is that true? No, that's not true. If you detonate the motor, it could easily take out the motor before it takes out the plug. So that's not accurate. The key is to not detonate it. That's not a fusible link like people want you to believe. Is it extremely difficult to add twin turbos to a 350 small block Chevy? Take a look at the video that I have of running twin turbos on a small block Chevy. That video is already up. It's not hard at all. I'm doing a 2020 M340i B58 BMW. That's a lot of stuff. Secondary injectors, big turbo. What else can I aim for to push the 1100 horsepower range? I don't know what motor that is. Is it if it's 2020, I'm sure it's a direct injected motor. Do you have enough fuel going to it? Do you have enough pump? What's the situation with that? Ported heads, cams, more than one? Do I need to rebuild everything internally? No, you can take a junkyard small block Chevy that's a 2-bolt and leave it all stock and run boost on it, and it will work fine. It's just not going to make very much power because it didn't make very much power NA, if that's the question. Callaway made twin turbo Corvettes. They did back in the day. Theirs were all 4-bolt mains, so. Richard, could you dyno the roadkill dots in the possible future? That's not my car. I don't have anything to do with those guys. I've seen some really cool 2J motors, but a real 2J motor is kind of hard and expensive to get. So is an RB26. That's why I got the 25 when I got it, because I don't have RB26 money. I had RB25 money, and I ended up just trading that for something else that I had, so I didn't even have the money for that. But the 2J is nice, but you can do a lot of what you could do with that with the 1J, and the stuff that you can find those inline 6-cylinders in wrecking yards. And you can tell everybody that it's a 2J. Is there a disadvantage to running a log manifold? Not in the range that most of us run it in. We need more small block ports. I've done a lot of small block port stuff in the very recent past. Have pure drivetrain trans that's good for 1,200 horsepower. That's a lot. That's part of the problem with it. It's pretty easy to make power with a lot of these different motors, but having the drivetrain to take that is harder. I'm wondering whether it would be difficult to run a large and small turbo on a V8 to get rid of lag. You just size the turbo so it doesn't do that. You can't run if you run a small one and a big one, you have to do sequential. You can't do twins and have the little one spool up faster and then the big one catches up, because it doesn't work like that. What happens is the one that spools up first backfeeds the other one. Unless you have all kinds of wonky flapper doors and stuff. Which external fuel pump do you like for 700, 750 wheel horsepower and 85 pump 93 mix? I don't know. I don't really put them in vehicles, so I'm not sure about that. The one that we use on the engine dyno is a big brushless aeromotive pump, so we just make sure that we have more than we ever need. The Trophy 4 will definitely make more power than the Iron Duke does. It's bigger. BMW N54. Yeah, those BMW motors should be, there should be a lot of those around. The thing about different exhaust manifolds people are asking about, let's see how our poll is doing, our 10-minute poll that's now been up there for a really, really long time. So we're going to end the poll there with should the Nova get nitrous, 66% saying yes and 33% saying no. So we're going to end the poll there. I'm going to put up another poll before I leave, which will probably be a 10-minute poll. Okay, so this one we already saw. We already asked the question: should the Nova get nitrous? Now let's ask the question: should the Nova get boost? I guess if I ask it in the form of a poll and not just a question, not just a comment, would be better. Dan, will a GT40P top end on an HO? So the Explorer top end with the Explorer intake manifold, better valve springs and crane 1.7 rockers make 300 horsepower. So 302 horsepower with no camshaft, just rockers. I don't know. It will be close. Are 2-bolt 400 small block Chevys strong enough to hold 800 horsepower? I wouldn't run them like that a lot. I would run them on the dyno at that power level under boost. Nitrous and boost. Why do we have to choose just one, right? A YN blower and a 200 shot. even the bots voted yes. Boost if it's not a V8. Well, boost even if it is a V8, right? The V8s need love too. Nitrous does help spool the turbo up. We saw that. And nitrous doesn't work as an intercooler, contrary to what people think, but nitrous does add lots of power, whether it's intercooled or not. A 1-cylinder cement mixer motor in the car is all the rage now. That's what I'm thinking. She runs good. Stock cam, 70mm throttle body, EGR plus Ford Racing performance, 1" 5/8 headers, off-road Magnaflows. That should work good. Do you have a underdrive pulleys on it, or a different mass air meter? 4-cylinder 470 Merc Cruiser. It's a crazy combo for a big blockhead. I think that's a 370, right? We will go all out, 8.1 turbo nitrous, all with a second on 3-speed. As long as you don't have to shift. But the nice thing about that 8.1 is you could just leave it in 3rd gear and drive around. Double header pole today, that's right. Cam just joined. Did you guys already talk about the trophy? All we did was say that the trophy is here. It's at the dyno shop. So we're going to be doing testing on it. And I haven't done any dynos on it yet. I should have put it all in one poll. I ruined that. You didn't ruin it. You're good. You're all good. Just want to max it out as far as I can. Is intake manifold, secondary injectors and controllers, a larger hybrid turbo, and a pure, I don't know what a pure transmission is. Methanol injection. Sounds like you have everything covered, right? I've not done any WRX motors. I can rev a trophy too. With this large displacement and not balance shafts. I don't know. What about spraying nitrous on the intercooler? I have a video up on that to show you exactly what it does. What is a good company to clean and flow injectors? WESTECH has a machine there, has an ASNU machine and a cleaner. Are the Amazon high performance manifolds any good on the 5.3 liters? I don't know which ones you're talking about. I voted yes for boost and no for. I voted yes for boost and nitrous. What Nova? Seriously. Propane and turbos. Richard, did you ever hear of TOTB in the UK? I didn't. Honda sponsored a friend of mine. He was a guest at my wedding. I have not heard of that. You got to tell me about it, or whoever that is, or whatever. We all know you can run nitrous and boost. Yeah, you can combine those. They work good. The Dearborn 303 was used on Buick, Olds, and Pontiac, but not Chevrolet. Multiple times. So I need to find out. I need to write myself a note. Find out what ECU setup I have on Omni. Since I have it here, now I can look, take it apart, find out what's going on. 10 of the best was a competition inviting 10 cars from each manufacturer, 3 disciplines and 3 classes. So were they like tuner cars or something? See how our poll is doing. We got much more saying yes to the boost on the Nova than nitrous. You know what that means. I thought you said the Omni was a mega squirt. No, it's got a factory ECU on it. Poly Terminator. I don't know if that's. I think it would be. That's what we're going to run on the dyno. Casey, I don't know if WESTECH does that or not. They might. Are those K cars multi-port injection? Yes, they are. Two more minutes. Yeah, the one that I have is it's a port injection, a non-cross flow head, non-intercooled, draw through with the throttle body in front of the turbo. So it has all of the good stuff. At least with the 300 or the 280ZX turbo motor, it's non-intercooled, low compression, has silly fuel rails and injectors, but at least it has the throttle body, you know, on the intake manifold after the turbo. Thomas, you ran a 172 B&M roots blower with a 400 horsepower fogger. That's a lot on a 454. I ran 10s. Nice. Wasn't WESTECH who originally would drill GT40 heads for thermactor air injection? No, that wouldn't have been them. Are bigger CC combustion chambers better for boost? No. And yes. Whatever the motor does NA, if you can get it to make power, and higher compression makes more power, it will make more power under boost. Bigger chambers, most guys, when they run, all the factory guys do usually, and most guys, when they run boosted motors, run lower compression, so bigger chamber heads will tend to go toward higher compression. But bigger chamber heads themselves are not necessarily better for boost. Yeah, Don, the NA ones were throttle body. In fact, the early ones were carbureted. And I have one of the NA throttle body injected intake manifolds, which I think will make a. So what do you guys think? Do you think it'll make it a good turbo manifold? Oliver, you think you figured out how to run the L28 distributor on the L28 ET? I'm pretty sure I have the parts to do it. Okay, so they're because they have different drive. One of them is a splined hex drive or something, and the other one was a slot. I was lucky to find L59 flex injectors last week. Oh, that's a good score. Does Meg support the controller that started out as an online community? I think it did. G25 on the 280, GT25. That seems like a small turbo. I have a GT25. I think it's a GT25. It might be a 22 that I ran on my ran on the Sprint, the 1 liter Sprint. We see the non-turbo oil pump drive shaft, and then I have the adapter to run the non-turbo distributor. But do we have to take the front cover off, or does that intermediate shaft come out? Oh, a G25, not a GT25. I was going to say it's pretty small. I think that the turbo the stock turbo on the Sprint, I think it's an RB32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32. 32 Have you done water or water meth on carbureted applications? I don't think I have. David, let's do a Barra motor in the Nova. That would be a good one. Oh, that shaft does come out? Okay. That'd be nice if it's an intermediate shaft. The some of the Cleveland distributors were like that. Double the latent heat of vaporization. Oh, diminishing returns. We have to just take the oil pump off. If we take the oil pump off, don't we have to take the front cover off? Okay, we're going to close out our poll at 86% saying yes, that the Nova should get boost. Well, lucky for you guys, the Nova already has boost. It just has boost on the diesel. Oh, the oil pump's external on the Nissan? Okay. Sweet. The only engine for the Nova is L33 with twins. I wouldn't want to drive that car with twins, a twin turbo L33 with what that could do. That car is not set up for that. I have seen Smokey's hot vapor engine, the Iron Duke. It's funny that everybody calls it a hot vapor engine and not a turbo engine or a turbo motor, because it had a turbo on it. Would a Granada convertible with a full cage and a built 331 be cool? Honestly, I don't like convertibles with cages on them, especially with the top down. I don't like having the cage structure stick up in the wind. That, for me, that's just not the thing. I like a convertible to just be a convertible, or if you're going to have a race car and a cage in it, I want a closed car for a race car. But that's just me. You get to do whatever you want. Is a 94 Nissan 300ZX twin turbo a good motor, reliable under normal conditions, 250,000 miles? Most of them don't go that far because of lack of maintenance and abuse. Racing Jason back in the day. Will 990 heads work good on a Gen 6 454 with boost? I don't know. I've never run 990 heads that I can remember. But yes, any head will work good under boost. What's in the Nova currently? It has a 6.2 liter diesel with a turbo on it. Shop, thank you very much. Yeah, it's a 6.2 diesel. And with a turbo on it. It's a turbo diesel. It wasn't originally a turbo diesel, but it's a diesel, and then he added a turbo. You have 9 Novas? Cool. You got to tell us about them. Oliver, what did that 6.2 turbo? I mean, what did that 6.2 diesel come out of originally? I think it's an 80s version. '84 Sierra. Okay. Been on your bike for 8 hours today? That's a long time. Okay, guys, I got to get going. It's already been 2 minutes, obviously. And we had 2 polls tonight. How great is that? I got to go over and see Oliver and help him work on the Nova, which was cool. Even though we put a sway bar in, like I just wanted to take out of there because it's not right. It's not ideal. But you guys will see all that in the video when I do it. Thank you all for showing up, and I will see you all tomorrow. And we're ending, and we're ending.